Now, in our first segment, tomorrow Sierra Leone joins the world to commemorate the International Day for Universal Access to Information on the theme, Mainstreaming Access to Information and Participation in the Public Sector. Access to information plays an important role in development, democracy, and equality. As such, the United Nations seeks to promote and protect access to information as a fundamental human right. This morning, to discuss the day, we have the Chairman and Information Commissioner of Right to Access Information Commission, Dr. Ibrahim Seaga. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning to the viewers as well.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So briefly, just take us through your recent activities at the Right to Access Information Commission.
The whole idea of the celebration is something that is very important in the makeup of what we do, because the access to information is very key. It's very central to whatever is happening in the public sector. So as you can see from the theme, the localized theme here, mainstreaming access to information and public participation across government sectors in Sierra Leone. That is the local theme, and we adopted this particular theme from the global theme, which is access to information and participation in the public sector. These two teams, what the message they try to send very clearly is that access to information cannot happen without collaboration. The oversight bodies are mandated to facilitate access to information. That is like, for instance, our Right to Access Information Commission. We don't necessarily hold the information. So if access to information is going to happen, it means everybody is supposed to come on board. All MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, and even private companies that work with government, particularly those that are part of the public-private partnership, is very, very key. So that is why we always go out to try and make sure that we engage them, not only popularizing the law, to the public authorities and the civil society and, of course, members of the public, but also build their capacity over the period. So that is what we do. So this celebration is a moment, is a celebration that is observed every year, 28th of September. And because tomorrow is Saturday, and that's why we decided to hold it now, and it's celebrated all over the world, particularly where you have oversight bodies, where the law has been adopted and implemented. For now, we have about 140 countries, all over the world that have adopted the law, and most of these 140 countries are already implementing the law. There are some others that have adopted, but are still trying to put structures in place to implement. One of them, of course, is the Gambia, the country that is not far from us here. They are just about now, they just set up the commission recently, and they are trying to, So it's a moment for reflection about what has worked well, what has not worked well, what are the challenges, what are the successes, what are the best practices that can be shared across MDAs, that is public authorities, and civil society organizations, So that is why today we are observing it, we are celebrating it, we are bringing together public authorities, civil society organizations, NGOs, to come and reflect, on what has really been going in this particular area of, governance. Because access to information is very key. Okay. It's very important in terms of reinforcing, the whole idea of transparency, public accountability, and good governance. Without access to information, it's very difficult to have this happening.
As you try to reflect during your celebration, how would you also evaluate the level of compliance or participation and transparency that has been in the process since you were part of the commission?
Well, over the period, we have seen a steady increase in the rate of compliance, which I think is really due to the increasing popularization drives that we have embarked on recently. Not just popularization, also capacity building. Because, you know, the law can be very abstract. So sometimes if you are not a legal person, you cannot understand some of the aspects of the, you know, the provisions, the sections, the relevant sections. So what we do over the period is to constantly engage not just the public authority, but also civil society. And, you know, through civil society, we engage the public directly. And so because the public authorities, they are on the supply side of the information flow most of the time, you know, and then the civil society organizations are on the demand side. But there are times also where the public authorities can also be on the demand side, because decision-making processes cannot happen without access to information, because you don't have access to the right information. You know, assuming you are a legal person, you want to try and secure the freedom or liberty of somebody who has been incarcerated in a situation where probably unfairly, and the lawyer is trying to secure that person's freedom. You know, and but the lawyer will need definitely access to information to be able to do that. And to free somebody, that is very important. It's not just 15 working. I mean, it's the deadline for that is 48 hours. You know, that is to save life. For instance, a medical doctor needs information to save somebody's life. It's 48 hours. It's not the normal 15 working days, you know. So that just gives you, and most of the time, if this information is needed at that particular time within 48 hours and it's not provided, can you just imagine what will happen to many people, you know, in terms of saving their lives. If doctors, for instance, need access to information and they cannot have that access, they cannot have that information very quickly to intervene in saving lives. It's going to cause problems. So that is why what we have been trying to do is that the rate of compliance has increased. Because if you look at our last reporting for 2022, the financial year 2022, about 13,000 FOI requests were recorded nationally. You know, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for now. We'll be releasing our annual report very soon, and you'll see that there has been also an increase, in the FOI requests nationally, far above that 13,000 that we reported last time for 2022. For 2023, it has improved massively. And also proactive disclosure of information. We have seen improvements. When we started, when I took over in 2018, 2019, the first assessment that we did, only 10 MDs actually cooperated, engaged with the process. Now we are talking about between 60 to 70 MDs that are really coming forward now and really proactively disclosing information. Looking at where we came from, culture of secrecy to culture of openness, it's not easy at all. This is our 10th year, and very soon you will hear that we'll be celebrating, because in October we'll start our commemoration of a 10th year of the existence of the Right to Access Information Commission. I think we've come a long way, and considering the fact that making that transition from culture of secrecy, people have been used to secrecy too much in this country, particularly the public sector. Disclosing information has been a big challenge. For instance, one area, that is why this topic is very key, mainstreaming access to information and public participation practices across public sectors. That means all public authorities. But if the civil servants and the public officers, the public servants who work in these public authorities, they are hesitant to release information whenever people come forward to request for information, it's going to be a problem. And sometimes, most of the time, what has been happening is that they will make reference to, we have signed up to a code of secrecy. When we take up our responsibility, we normally sign. But there is no such thing as code of secrecy. What we realized when we were consulted by the consultant who worked on the civil service code, which is being reviewed now, and very soon it will go to Parliament, is that the bureaucracy, the time that it takes to get permission from the authorities to the information officers. Normally, it will go beyond the 15 working days. And then, you know, because they will not, because normally the information officers will not give information without the permission of the either administrative head or the political head of the public authority. So what we have tried to do now, what we have done now, is to make sure that the new code, civil service code, is now speaking directly according to the views that have been captured now, you know, to bring it in harmony with our law, because we cannot implement the law if it's not in harmony with other legislations. But since the code of secrecy is old, we are hoping that when it is reviewed, that idea, that excuse that civil servants have been given, oh, we cannot give information because we have signed up to secrecy, will no longer apply.
Dr. Shaw, the relevance of access to information needs not to be downplayed, more so in the 21st century. But I was just going through your page and I noticed the theme for last year, the global theme, which speaks to the importance of online space for access to information. How well exhausted was that theme before we talk of the theme for 2024?
Oh, that theme actually was very key, because we kind of linked that theme to the global theme on because there was a conference, a global conference last year was held in Oxford, you know, at the University of Oxford, and I participated in that symposium, and it was on the same topic of online space. How can you use the online space to enhance access to information, you know, the digital, and from that particular conference and the one that we organized here, following from that, we decided to roll out the regulations, you know, because the regulations were passed in 2022. So we decided to make sure that we also develop digital platforms, you know. From Form A, we have Form A, Form B, Form C, and Form D. These are platforms that enable access to information. At the moment, as I speak now, we have them on our website. You know, at the moment, we have not been able to make them, to make the system to be like accessing information in real time. But we have engaged a firm that is currently helping us to develop the platforms to a particular level where, in real time, people will be able to access information. That is, when they submit their application, their request for information, you know, they will, in real time, we will get a copy of the request, and the public authority from whom they are requesting the information will receive the application, the request for information. And so it will help us to monitor compliance better. So the online space, the digital platforms that we have really, you know, recently we launched them, and very soon also we are going to be embarking on some popularization and capacity building, you know, working with journalists and other stakeholders to make sure that, you know, people use the platforms, you know, because the manual option will still be there. You will still write a letter if you want to request for information, you know, there is no problem with that. But what we want to try and imbibe that culture of people using more the digital platforms. Because if that happens, we are going to see a phenomenal increase in the rate of compliance. Because definitely, particularly when you look at the young people now, you know, the aging, when you look at the age brackets, you know, most people, you know, are now really used to using their smartphones, you know, to look for information on social media and so forth. So if we are able to succeed in bringing those platforms to properly function, I am sure in the next 1 year, you'll see that the rate of compliance will
The reason for that question is the fact that, Dr. Shaw, you cannot give what you don't have. And, you know, it's very evident that many of the government ministries, departments, and agencies are still reliant on, you know, having documents, critical documents, on the shelves and cupboards, not, you know, through this digital platform. Are we there as a country, or what needs to be done at this particular moment?
I think we are not there yet, but probably I think there is a political will, which I think the Ministry of Communication and Innovation, Technology, they are working very hard to make sure that you know, more people are digitally, I mean, media literate. I mean, they can use platforms and so forth, and they are also making it possible for a lot of, even rural communities, to have access to mobile phones. You know, so you touched on a very important point about records, you know, that most records are in paper format instead of digital. And that's one area that we are really looking for. We have a big challenge there. I have to be honest with you. There's a huge challenge there. But what we are hoping for, as soon as the legislation, I mean, there is a bill that is about to go to Parliament. And if that bill goes to Parliament, it becomes law, you know, the records management, the archives and records management. It will help us, it will strengthen us to be able, because we will be coming from the regulatory angle, and the Ministry of Information, they will be handling the administrative, you know. So there is going to be a compelling need to have not only people who work in the records section that are kind of have skills in paper records, but also people who have skills around digital records, you know. This is something that we are really going to emphasize, because if you have people who can handle records, you know, both manually in paper format and then digitally, you imagine how quick people will respond to information requests. Because if the information is already packaged digitally, you know, everything that is in paper format is also scanned and digitalized, you know, you see that it will make the whole process to be quick. Sometimes it's not that public authorities don't want to release information. It's because they don't have the information. They don't have the information packaged and recorded and kept, you know, and that's the most of the problem. And this brings even the challenge that even the auditing firms that are hired by Audit Service Sierra Leone to conduct audits of public accounts, most of the time they have challenges. Why? One of the biggest challenges that they normally have is records are not there. Records are not properly kept. Okay? So you find out that transparency and accountability is undermined. You know, this governance, something that is very, very key to governance, is undermined. You know, and if people cannot account properly, they cannot provide documents to support their activities, you know, both in the administrative sectors and in the financial sectors, there is going to be a problem. You see? So that is why access to information is very key in promoting transparency, accountability, and good governance. Without that, it's very, very difficult for us to have a transparent society.
You've already mentioned the importance to the right to access information. Mm-hmm. What would you say has been one of the major challenges?
One of the major challenges we have been facing is this idea of people still struggling to accept that we now have an open society. Because since the passage of this law, you know, in 2013, and the setting up of the commission a year after, we now have a culture of openness in this country. But people are still not, you know, so that's why we are intensifying our popularization campaigns. We want more and more people, both from the supply side and from the demand side, so to know that this law is there, and this law is there for them to use. Okay, we want them to know that, we want them to know the provisions of the law, everything about the law. Of course, there are certain classes of information that you cannot divulge without, you know, undermining certain other rights. Okay, you know, we encourage people to go on our website, look at the act. If they have any questions, let them come to us. That is one major challenge that we have, that idea of that culture of secrecy, you know, particularly in the public sector. That is why we are looking forward to collaborate with institutions like Public Service Commission, HRMO, you know, to do more capacity building, to, you know, particularly targeting not just the information officers, but also the administrative heads, like the permanent secretaries, because most of the time there are challenges. The information officers will say, oh, we don't have the support of our bosses, you know. So that is why you see most of the time will elapse. It will go beyond the 50 working days. And the moment it goes beyond the 50, the public authority will have defaulted already.
So
because
when the public authority defaults,
they have to respect, they have to provide the information within that deadline.
What do you do when the public authority defaults?
It means they are defaulted. So that is why we are using both the carrot and the stick approach. You know, you see that the popularization and capacity building activities that we embark on is part of the carrot approach. You know, babysitting, supporting them, giving them the kind of knowledge, the tools that they need to be able to implement the law. Because the whole idea is to have them understand the law so that they will implement the law. But we also have the stick that we use from time to time, okay? And just yesterday, probably you must have seen a press release where we issued a fine on the corporate affairs for refusing to provide information to a requester. Okay, so I mean, corporate affairs is not the only, it's not the first and only we have issued fine on. So, and there are a lot of other institutions that we have issued orders. We have done reviews subject to Section 45 of our Act, because Section 43 of our Act says that anybody who requests for information and the public authority is reluctant to provide the information, they can approach us and ask us to review, the decision, the refusal of the, and we can then resort to Section 45, which gives us that power to review the refusal or the reluctance of the public authority, and then order them to release the information within a short period of seven working days. Refusing, failing which, we normally resort to the next level, which is impose fines and so forth. And that's what exactly happened to this corporate affairs. Because they were first issued an order and given 7 working days to respond. They ignored us.
It could just be...
And we need to send a very strong message to public authorities that we cannot be ignored without the consequences being felt.
It could just be one of many cases, Dr. Shaw. But again, would you consider the unavailability of investigations reports? Say, for instance, in the audit hullabaloo that was all over the place, when the Auditor General and the Deputy were investigated, and us journalists were all over the place for the information regarding the outcome of the investigation. Do you consider same of such critical, matter, a violation of the, right to access
information? Well, the case of Lara Pierce and Momo, I think it was a case we received. I can't remember whatever, but over almost 12 to 13 information requests that came. We were copied. And then later, about I think about 4 or 5 of the requesters, applied, requested for us to do a review, subject to that Section 43 of our Act, And then we resorted to the, we applied Section 45, which gives us the power to order the public authority to release the information. But in this case, what happened was that the moment those requests came, we were in the process of putting them together and issuing the orders when the information was, the document itself, the report, okay, the tribunal report was laid, because that was it. That was a report that was requested for by these requesters. So the moment it became a public document, because when it's laid in Parliament, it becomes automatically a public document. And in fact, it was all over the place, social media and so forth. So what we did was to get back to those few of the requesters who requested for that information, for that document, for that tribunal report. We got back to them and just told them that now the information is available. In fact, it was even available in a bookshop. It's gazetted, as soon as it's presented, before it is even presented in Parliament, it's laid in Parliament, it's gazetted. So we responded in that way. So there was no need. We didn't see any need to write to the public authorities anymore to ask them to give them the 7 mandatory days to release the information. So that matter was settled. So it was good that it just settled that way, because the moment it's the information is available in the public domain, there is no point. But I can tell you that there was a lot of attention from civil society. There was a lot of demand for information for that document, and at the moment I understand the document is still being discussed in Parliament, So probably after they finish discussing and whatever outcome that comes out of it, I'm sure will be relayed to the public. Proactively by the House of Parliament.
Help us connect the dots between access to information and that of its role in fostering a peaceful and an inclusive society.
Access to information and
Yes. Help us
inclusive
connect
and
the
peaceful
dots.
society.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very important. That is why access to information is, is part of SDG 6. In fact, it's SDG 1610.2, which is part of SDG's Sustainable Development Goal 16. And SDG 16 it relates to promoting just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. So the fact that public access to information is located within that SDG tells you that access to information is an enabler. Is an enabler of having peaceful, inclusive societies. Because if access to information is made possible, it's very easy for us to have societies that are inclusive. Because definitely, those who think that they are not included, they will always go for information, try to search for information. And if that information is available to them, in the first place, they will know that they have a right to access certain services. And they are not having access to those services. So if the information is not proactively disclosed, for instance, by the local authorities, for instance, like the councils, that deal directly with the grassroots people, if those services are not provided, but there is a lot of information about what they do and the funding they receive, and all that information is available on their platforms, the members of the public will have access to that information. And services that are lacking, okay, for instance, just take an example of a marketplace. If the toilets are not functional, they are not working, and the market women there, they know that there is information that's available on the website of the city council, for instance, and that information tells them that there is funding to make sure that they have toilets, and those toilets are not provided. They will go and ask questions. But if they don't have access to that information, then it means they will be excluded, from the largesse, from what comes from the consolidated fund. Because at the end of the day, the people have to benefit directly from what is happening. But if people are hearing about projects, they are hearing about a lot of other things, and then it's not trickling down to them, they are not feeling it, then what's the point? There is no point, So, and then peaceful societies, of course, when people have access to information, it will calm down tensions. If people have access to the relevant information instead of misinformation or disinformation, the accurate information, okay, what we call information integrity. If the information is really credible, they have access to it. It will put them at ease. It will release tension in the society. But if people don't have if they don't have access to the correct information, all they have access to is the misinformation or disinformation. When people manufacture information deliberately to disinform, if that's the only thing that is available to them, then it's going to manipulate them. It's going to expose them to some activities that will make the society not to be peaceful. And that's what we have been telling the public authorities. Whenever we have consultations with them, we always encourage them to bring out more information about what they do. Let the public know what they are doing. Because if they don't know what they are doing, what happens is that information gap is normally exploited by evil people and to create panic, create chaos. So, but if you don't allow that information gap to exist in the communities, they are receiving the correct information. Whenever something is happening or whenever something is going to happen, you are informing them accordingly. That's why the idea of these town hall meetings is very key, because it gives the opportunity to citizens, to people, to come to some of these town hall meetings and vent out their opinions. Sometimes some of the information they get is not correct, and when they come there, they will get the correct information, and that information that we will have will inform them and shape their thinking. It's possible that there are certain things that will also come and learn about certain provisions. If, for instance, they are not accessing certain services, they will ask questions. That is what we call the feedback loop in information processing. If people are coming and they have access to certain information that you give them, and that information gives them it opens their eyes to ask for more information. So probably about services that they are not receiving. that the kind of interactive, with something will help them, will even help the people who are delivering services to the public to know what they are doing well and what they are not doing well. But if they are not giving information, then it's going to be a problem.
Okay.
So mostly that is the challenge that we have. And that is why we encourage public authorities to always proactively disclose information. Make sure that they don't keep quiet. When people come forward to request for information, they don't deny them. Because when they deny them, that is what we call public trust. There is a risk of eroding public trust. And when that trust is eroded, there is no confidence. That's why it's difficult to have peaceful societies if the trust is not there. So that is very important.